to our innovation workshop, which may be one of several this year if the feedback is good and if there's interest. We're going to go ahead and do introductions. So again, as we go around, please give me your name and your club and your role, and then we will start. So let's go with Jen Dresser.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jen Dresser. My club is Albuquerque Metro, but I'm the District 5520 Learning Facilitator this year. Pretty excited about that job. So I really appreciate Jeff and all the support from the district for workshops like these, because I'm trying to, and I will try to continue to find resources to help the clubs achieve their goals through learning. So that's my primary objective. And I'm also an AG. And I also poke around in other things. So thank you all for attending.
That's great. Thank you, Jen. Harold.
Yeah, Harold Schultz, El Paso Sunrise. I'm currently the president for our local club.
Awesome, Harold. Thank you very much. Art.
Hi, I'm Art Thorne, president of the Silver City Rotary Club.
Awesome, Art. Thank you very much. Steve. Steve, are you there? We will come back. Yeah. Michael on an iPad, and if you can go ahead and change your renames so that we can get your last name and role.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Michael Martinez, Rio Grande, Albuquerque Rotary Club.
Awesome, Michael. Thank you. And again, if you can do the rename, that would be fantastic, so we can remember who you are. George.
I'm George Greenlee. I'm a member of the Los Lunas Club, and I do the newsletter for that club, and I'm also an AG.
Awesome, George. Thank you. Chavi.
I am. My name is Maria Isabel Guerra Verastegui. Then it's very complicated, and that's why they call me Chavi. It comes from Isabel Chabela Chavi. I represented Taos Milagro Rotary Club. This year, I am the president of the club. It's very nice to be with all of you, and I hope I can learn something that I can apply for my club. Thank you.
Awesome, and I hope we all learned something. But that is really nice. Thank you very much. Christina. Christina, are you there? Okay, we'll come back. Laura?
Hi, I'm Laura Gonzalez, and I am from the Los Alamos Rotary Club, and I am an AG, and I am on the Rotary Youth Exchange Committee. I'm the inbound coordinator, and I'm very excited about the innovation workshop. Unfortunately, I have not received my camera I ordered from my computer yet, so I have no picture today, but looking forward to it.
Well, it's a nice picture that we're seeing, even though it's not live. So at least we're seeing your face. Sharon.
My name is Sharon Flaherty. I'm with the Taos Milagro Rotary Club, and I'm the treasurer.
Great, Sharon. Thank you. Bill.
Bill Rothweiler, Albuquerque del Sol. I'm the new member orientation trainer, and I'm the newsletter editor. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Ophelia.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Ophelia Maletzko. I'm with the past president of El Paso Zaragoza Rotary Club, and I am a member of the District 5520 Strategic Planning and Innovation Cadre. Happy to be here with all of you.
Thank you, Ophelia. Dick Jones.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Dick Jones. I'm past district governor. I'm with the Rotary Club of Santa Fe. My primary role this year is serving as the District Rotary Foundation Chair, but I also head the Youth Protection Committee and 2 or 3 other committees, or I serve on other committees. So I have multiple roles, but the foundation is a new challenge for me, and it's one that we're learning about as we go along. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dick. Scott?
Good morning. I'm Scott Russell with the Las Cruces Rio Grande Club. I am a member. I just was the past foundation chair for our club. So I'm a sitting member at the moment, but I'm interested in what changes are being looked at and talked about relative to growth of all of our clubs.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Scott. Steve Buckley, are you there? Not hearing. Christina, are you there? Okay, we will come back. District Governor-elect Tom Simon.
Yay. Yes, thank you for the introduction, Jeff. I'm Tom Simon. I'm a member of the Rotary Club of Santa Fe. It's past president from 2015, 2016, and I'll be district governor next year, starting July 1st.
Awesome. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Before we introduce Yasser, have I missed anyone?
I came in late.
Oh, go ahead, Christina.
The reason I marked Christina, this is Michelle Frechette.
Oh my God.
Is because I'm on my remote device, and my court clerk in the village of Corrales, so now you know I'm the local judge, is named Christina. So that's how that ended up marked like that.
I was like, wow, you have a
that's funny.
twin. That was amazing.
And I got the link late because I get a demerit for not asking for the link in advance. But Miss Laura saved me this morning. So that's a great Rotary story. Anyways, Michelle Frechette, Rio Rancho Rotary Club, Chair of Youth Exchange. And when I get home to my other computer, I will change my name and be appropriate.
Okay, and I did change your name, and you are always appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay. District Governor Yasser Merga.
Thanks, Jeff. Just good morning, everyone, from the Rotary Club of El Paso, and then the District Governor. Good to see everyone.
Good to see you. And before we start, why don't you give us like an introductory word of wisdom?
Introductory word of wisdom. Well, just the theme of innovation. Innovation has a lot of different names: adaptability, pivoting, thinking outside the box. You know, that 4 or 5 letter word, change. But I've been going around the clubs and I've been promoting innovation, thinking outside the box, hearing new ideas. And at first, I was really nervous because our demographic is not a demographic that's necessarily known for change. We have Rotarians that have been in clubs for many, many years, but I've been pleasantly surprised how well received bringing new ideas has been. So I'm very excited about this innovation. People, when you're bringing new ideas, people get excited and they're on board. It's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Once in a while, somebody's going to say, you know, that's not going to work, and it's a bad idea. But overall, people have been real receptive. So and Jen, I'm really excited about this session. Thank you for organizing it.
Oh, you're very welcome. As I said, they're depending upon how this goes and kind of level of interest, I could see us doing one of these like once a quarter. So, and I am Jeff Weinrack, and I'm District Governor nominee from the Rotary Club of Albuquerque del Sol. I was chair of the Strategic Planning and Innovation Cadre that Ophelia mentioned. And innovation is just a passion of mine, and very happy to be here with you all. Zoom protocol, and then we'll get into the presentation. So if possible, please have your video on. And this is a fairly small group, so I think it's okay if you have audio on. If we hear any feedback or something, we'll see if we can weed that out. But we really want this to be an interactive discussion, brainstorming and sharing ideas. So my recommendation is to have audio on unless we run into a problem. If God forbid something happens and there's a lightning strike and everything goes down, we will reschedule this. I'm hoping that that's not the case. And if you have any questions, please just speak up. I mean, we can use chat and raise hands, but again, with a small group like this, I think it would be preferable if we just ask questions. And please ask questions. Again, this is an interactive workshop. We're really going to learn from each other. So we're going to go through kind of an overall view of what innovation is, what it means in Rotary clubs. We're going to take a look at the Rotary Action Plan, which we'll go over a little bit because there's some nice connections between that Rotary Action Plan and innovation. And then we're going to break into 3 groups for a good part of the second half of this and think about what innovation opportunities we have in Rotary clubs, why it may be a struggle at times to bring new ideas to the fore and get them implemented. We'll then come back and we'll have a report out from the 3 groups, and then we will close. Someone just joined us on the phone. Who is that?
It's Steve.
Steve Buckley? Steve, is that you, Steve Buckley? Not sure. Okay.
Steve Buckley.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you for why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Steve Buckley I'm the president of the Truth or Consequences Rotary Club.
Awesome. And you're also on the district
finance committee.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. All right. I'm going to share my screen. So, you know how it goes. When we share screens, your pictures will kind of be there on the side and you can scroll and see other people. But again, just be interactive, interject if you have questions, comments, anything like that. Go ahead and share my screen. Okay, are you seeing a PowerPoint?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Since I used to be in public image and we've got a great new district public image chair, just a reminder, appropriate branding on our Rotary logo and our theme for the year. Innovation workshop. So, and Jen, feel free to jump in here. So in preparation for this workshop, Jen sent out kind of a pre-workshop survey to get a sense of what your expectations were for this, what you wanted for takeaways. And these were the themes that came out of your feedback. So as we go through this, and there may be others, but as we go through this, we want to see when we're finished if we did meet your expectations, and if not, what we can do differently the next time we put on this workshop. Jen, I was just going to read these. Jen, did you have any comments about the pre-survey?
Well, we got quite a few responses because I sent it to this group that registered. So I just wanted to thank everybody that participated. It's really, really helpful. So thank you for that.
Yes, definitely. So looking for ways to keep our club relevant. That is just absolutely huge. How innovation applies to Rotary. Is there a Rotary model, innovation model, and what other clubs are doing and their results? So that's really important too, because part of putting this on and having people from different clubs is we're really going to learn from each other. And that's really a great innovation strategy, rather than just building everything from scratch, is learn from others. So that's great. Thank you. How to liven up weekly meetings, how clubs are restructuring membership classifications and meeting times to better serve members and potential members. Yeah, I think we're going to talk a lot about member strategies and club types and things like that. So thank you for that. Improved collaboration and teamwork across area and district clubs to address innovation from a top-down approach, district to clubs. So, we're all in this together. We're going to learn from each other, and the district has as many, if not more, innovation opportunities as clubs do. So the district is going through innovative improvement as well. Some new ideas for motivating and managing members so that we can make an even bigger difference in the community without burning everyone out. That's great. Thank you. Actionable checklists and templates. That may be something that we develop as a result of this. That certainly is something that we can do as like a takeaway if we feel like that would be helpful. A list of top 10 key ideas. Maybe that'll be the outcome of today. And by the way, because we are recording this, we're going to take all of the information from the 3 breakout groups and put them together and send that out so that everyone has the ideas that everyone else came up with. So we want to make sure that all the information that we come up with is being shared, not just with us, but there are other people that registered who couldn't make it today. And we just want to share this with clubs and district. We want to make sure that everyone gets this information. So again, thank you for your feedback. And again, when we're near the end, we want to go back to this and just let us know how we did addressing your expectations. So let's start with what innovation is. There are certain things that people think innovation is that it may not be, and vice versa. We'll just, and again, feel free to just interject with questions, comments. So innovation is, by definition, a breakthrough change. So they're typically not incremental. They're not tweaking around the edges. They are significant. And as Yasser kind of opened it up and he kind of talked about how we're kind of in an innovation culture right now, the notion is that the changes, or at least some of the changes that we need to make, are breakthrough, significant, not minimal.
Jeff?
Yes.
Would you call, I think Yasser's idea of the basket, the auction basket, is an example of a breakthrough change. It's raising a lot of money that would never have appeared otherwise.
I would agree. And it's not like there was something similar already happening and Yasser just did a minor tweak, right? This was completely new. So I would agree. I would agree that that's a breakthrough change. It does not always involve designing or creating something new. It can be creating something new, but it doesn't have to. So can anyone think of how we can come up with some innovation where we did not design or create something new?
Moving meeting time.
Moving meeting time. So we already had a meeting time. We adjusted it maybe to better meet the needs of the members. So we changed something, but we didn't start from scratch on that, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yep. Yep. And also, if we learn from others, so let's say we go visit a Rotary Club in, I don't know, Washington State, and they do something really interesting there, and we bring that back. We didn't create that. It was created somewhere else, but we saw it and we thought, boy, that would be really interesting. And even if we tweak it a little bit to make it fit our club environment, it wasn't like we designed it from scratch. So a lot of innovation comes from learning and observing from others. It usually has associated with it some degree of risk. We're not going to talk a lot about risk today unless it comes up during the breakout sessions. But the notion is that if you're making breakthrough change, there's the possibility that it's not going to work. The incremental changes are more likely going to work because you're not significantly changing the thing in the first place. So the notion is when you are doing something innovative, what risks are associated with that proposed change? And do we understand those risks? And can we avert or mitigate the risks? So it's just part of thinking through an innovation opportunity. What if it doesn't work? And one thing we will reinforce throughout this morning is that with innovation, there is definitely opportunity for failure. That's just part of the nature of it. But the key for us is to accept when there is a failure and learn from it. So maybe we learn from it and we make a change and then it works. So don't be too concerned if there's a failure. It kind of comes with innovation. The key is using it as an opportunity to learn and go forward. And sometimes this is called intelligent risk. So the notion is it's just not random. It's been thought through. We understand what they are. We understand what the level of risk is and what we would do to minimize it. It can be reactive or it can be proactive. So over the last few years, what do you think would be an example of an innovation in our district that was kind of reactive? Kind of. Not totally, but kind of reactive.
Moving everything to Zoom meetings because the
Yes. Yes. So there was an example of, and maybe some clubs were already doing some virtual meetings or hybrids, but COVID kind of forced us to do that. And interestingly, when the pandemic was over and we were able to go back to the pre-COVID days, a lot of clubs said, no, we like this model. We're keeping it. There were things that they liked about it. So that was an example where we reacted to something, we did something innovative, and it may be staying. So that's an example of reactive. Ideally, we would like to be thinking about innovation in a proactive way. So we don't want to wait for the crisis and then react. I mean, we will, but we'd really like to think ahead and say, well, what can we do now? Not because there's a crisis, but because we have an opportunity to do more or to do better. Okay, why is innovation important for Rotary? And again, as we go through these talking points, I may have missed something that you think is really important. And if so, please speak up. We want to make sure that that we capture your thoughts. So we are in changing times. We've heard it at conferences. We've heard it at Rotary conventions and at our club meetings. Things are changing, and we don't control the changing times that we're in. But what we can control is what we do to leverage or capitalize on the changing times that we are in. How do we take advantage of how things are right now? Focus on flexibility and adaptability. Yasser alluded to it. Rotary is promoting flexibility and adaptability. They are floating the notion of try things. I don't know, and Dick is, I think, probably the one who would best know if this was a way that Rotary was communicating, let's say 10, 15 years ago. I didn't get the sense that they were, but they certainly are now. Dick, is this a relatively new theme from Rotary to kind of think new and try things and not worry so much about the kind of the old model?
It was starting to develop 10, 15 years ago because email was just coming into its stride as far as the organization was going, but that was really about the only option that we had other than US mail. So it was just starting to gain traction.
Yeah. But it seems now that they are really promoting this. It's like almost in every presentation we hear about new things and try new things and new models, and so it seems like they understand that that's how we should function now. There's competition. So we are in a competitive environment. Competition for service, competition for membership, competition for funding. And if we, there's an expression that if you're not growing, you're dying. Innovation is not the only way to grow. But having said that, a lot of our competition is also in an innovation mindset right now. They are going through breakthrough change just like we are. So if we don't take those risks and try new things, our competition will likely continue to grow and succeed to our detriment. Does that seem reasonable?
Yeah, we have to, if you don't change, you die.
Yeah. But it does seem like innovation is a lot more commonplace now, not just with us, but with all the organizations, or many of the organizations that are like us.
And I want to say, why with competition, with who we are competing?
So that's a great question. So in your community, when you think about what Rotary is doing, what type of competition do you have?
With who we are competing, against to who are we competing, because we work as a collaboration.
Right. Okay, so I'd like to hear from other people, because collaboration is ideal. But ultimately, so let's just take membership, for example. So if someone wants to join a Rotary Club, they certainly can. They can also join other clubs that are like Rotary. But there is a competition. There's just like if someone decides that they're only going to want to join one organization, we would want them to join us as opposed to our competitors. Something in the chat.
Jeff, would you mute Steve? He's
Yes.
reverberating.
Sorry. Thank you. But does anyone want to add about how you think about competition at your clubs?
This is Art. I'd like to add something. And all service organizations in Silver City are suffering, and they're losing membership. And some people say that the competition is people's cell phones and other distractions.
Right. Yep. Competition for money. So if we're doing a local fundraiser, and there's maybe 10 to 12 other fundraisers, people are going to make a decision about where they want to put their money. So there's competition for money, competition for projects, competition for people. It's just that we're not a monopoly. So if the other organizations that do similar things to improve or increase funding, membership, things like that, then we have to keep up. And hopefully we surpass. But if we don't, then we're going to lose out. Any other thoughts or comments? Yes.
Yeah. In Santa Fe, Kiwanis is a significant competitor for Rotary. They have the Zozobra, and that gets a huge amount of press. They don't always link it to Kiwanis, but most people know that it's one or the other. It's either Rotary or Kiwanis.
Yeah. And Chavi, you're correct. A really reasonable strategy is to find collaborative opportunities with competitors.
That's what I was just going to say, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that I find that a lot of the competition, if you would, is actual other like nonprofit organizations, right? Because what's happening is that they've taken it upon themselves to go out into the community. And so it's almost like they don't lean on an organization to help them. So our club has done that in just a small way. We've tried to collaborate with some of these smaller nonprofits because they do create competition, and they're after kind of the same people that we're after. I also think that there's a certain aspect of competition within the individuals, and I don't know if COVID brought this out in people, because I wasn't a Rotarian prior to COVID, but I feel like people are really, really self-absorbed in the thought of giving back is there, but it's almost surface level and it's not deep within. So they're not participating on a deeper level.
Interesting. Michael, who is with you?
This is Monica. She's our president-elect.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, I mean, understanding a competitive environment is just important anyway, right? It's just good to know in our community what else is out there.
I
The
was
notion,
gonna
go ahead,
just
Laura.
say really quickly that one thing that the Los Alamos Club has done is we have reached out for some of our big service projects like Meals of Hope to the Lions Club and the Kiwanis Club and invited them to come and help us. And we publicize that we have multiple clubs coming and helping us with these, which I think is a really good collaborative building between organizations.
Yeah. So again, notion, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add, like, I think sometimes competition gets a bad rap. Like like we're talking about other service organizations, like they're the enemy. And Laura gave a great example right there where they're not the enemy. And it's not so much that any of these other draws on people's time, none of it's the enemy. It's more just we're trying to capture that this is the reality. And if we can make our organization attractive to people and value adding to them, then we'll get more people. And so value adding can be collaborating with other groups, or value adding can be more interesting than if we're more interesting than a Facebook reel, then we're going to get more people to spend their time with us. So it's just the reality. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah. And if you just look around, like in your daily experience, you'll come across things that are kind of new and fresh. And if only one organization has the new and fresh, maybe a couple months later, 5 organizations have the same new and fresh. Like people tend to copy and replicate and try new things. It's just kind of the environment that we're in right now, which is exciting. Status quo is not working. Now, this is not a blanket statement for every single Rotary Club, but in general, the current way that we've been doing things is not working and is not sustainable. At the district level, membership has been coming down, although it's plateaued. But I think, as Laura pointed out, if we're not growing, we are dying. And so it's incumbent upon us to think of improvement. And the notion of innovation is just that some of these improvements are going to be the significant ones, the ones where we're going to try something. And we'll learn a lot by trying new things.
I would like to jump in there.
Yeah.
In terms of saying that the status quo isn't working, it is really, really important as Rotarians to look at what are the pieces of the things that we do that do work, and remember to sustain those in the midst of your innovation. Because if all you do is take it all down and start over again, you may be actually taking out the things that were working. And so that's just it. I'm just bringing that up. We've got to remember to keep those things that currently work.
In fact, not just keep them, but maybe replicate them. So like if, let's say you've got a club with 7 committees and one of them is going gangbusters and the other 6 are kind of just humming along, the other 6 could learn from the one that's doing really well. What is it that is putting you in the position where you're doing really well? What can we learn from them? So again, a lot of innovation just comes from observing and learning from others. So absolutely, Michelle, thank you.
And I think that's a really good point, Michelle. Like it's not about change just for change's sake, just because it's exciting and shiny and new. That's not the purpose of this discussion. It's about building on what we have and then changing those things that aren't working, for sure. Fully agree.
Exactly. And we haven't mentioned it yet, but you may find if you use the term change agent, sometimes people give you a look. I don't know if it's because it's overused, but even if we buy into this principle that innovation is important, we just may not want to use the term change agent. It just gets a bad rap a little. Okay, recent examples. So this is something you all asked about. We wanted to just talk through a few examples and then you may have others. So we talked about the online hybrid meetings. I really do find it interesting that when the pandemic was over, a lot of us just kept the technology. We found that there was some value in that beyond that we had to do it during the pandemic. So And we'll see. I mean, I think that's still the tip of the iceberg, but we're still doing it. Diversity related to club membership types. Yasser, feel free to jump in here, and Tom. This is really being promoted right now. Different types of clubs, like the passport clubs, which I know we've got one in Santa Fe, if I remember correctly. You know, there's like, I don't know, 8 or 9 different types of clubs that Rotary is promoting in terms of possibilities, but also membership types, corporate members, young members. There's some clubs have like sliding scale for dues. So that, you know, there's a lot of opportunity just in clubs and membership types that if it fits what your club is trying to accomplish, you may want to consider some of these. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anyone else wants to add to this, but this is like maybe in like one of the top things that Rotary is talking about now are new club types and membership types.
Well, I just wanted to mention that I think our district could benefit from having more areas of focus clubs, more like looking at a specific club for a specific reason, not just for an area of focus, but perhaps a club in different areas that focuses on LGBTQ plus membership and allies. You know, just I think there are lots of ways we can think outside the box about how we can encourage club growth.
Yasser, go ahead.
Which would be bringing in the DEI baseline model that Rotary really wants us to promote.
Yep. Yasser, President Stephanie, one of her primary goals is new club formation, right?
That's right, Jeff. She set us down at International Assembly, 500 plus district governors around the world. And one of 2 major goals for us was to create 4 new clubs, which could be a Rotaract club, a satellite club, and cause-based club, as you mentioned. So that's what Rotary International is really pushing, these type of new Rotary models that open it up to folks that say, I can't meet for lunch once a week, my time constraints, or I have a meeting to go back at 1 p.m. But hey, I could go to a once a month meeting, hanging out at a restaurant or somebody's home. That's a little bit more flexible. So Stephanie Archik's definitely pushing these new Rotary models.
Yeah. Who has their, Tom, go ahead.
As we think about the club models, excuse me, I think it's important to think in terms of solving needs in the community, that creating a club for the sake of it is not what we're looking for. We're looking to satisfy some need in the community. So if there's a group of people that are really interested in the environment but don't know how to come together to do anything about it, then Rotary is filling that need. They can come together under the banner of Rotary and work together to solve that problem.
Absolutely. So a lot of attention paid here. The area councils. So before the area councils, correct me if I'm wrong, but before those area councils started, there really wasn't a forum, a regular forum for club presidents to get together and share. Or if there was, it was kind of like hit and miss. I know El Paso had a group and so on, but just forming these councils provides opportunities that we really didn't have before. Because again, one great way to grow is to learn from others. And at least for me, I think those area councils have just been a wonderful innovation in our district. Part of it was because we're so large geographically, which is a challenge. But here's a way that we took the challenge and made an opportunity out of it by bringing club presidents, and now we're bringing others together to share ideas. So just that model, that notion was a little bit outside the box when it was developed. Rotary branding, including the People of Action campaign. So if you're familiar, the the notion that you can take like a picture and you can superimpose on it, together we fight, together we teach, together we help, whatever the motto is, and superimpose it on a picture, and it gets more attention. It's more, it's not necessarily people standing in a club meeting talking. It's Rotarians in action, and having that People of Action campaign kind of be superimposed on the pictures was really interesting. And then the change to the logo. I mean, that was a significant change to add the word Rotary to the logo. And we've heard, I think, really interesting presentations on what the rationale was for that. And that they didn't make that up. They took it from other organizations that have a similar word first, then the little picture next to it. So just another example of some innovations in Rotary.
Jeff.
Yes.
On the innovation, I don't know if you want me to bring it up now or if it's something that waits for a breakout session, but I have an idea of something that would be, I think, is innovation. Maybe it's been done before. I'm a new Rotarian, so I don't know if now's the time to bring it up or wait.
I would say I would say either. I mean, we're doing good on time, so if you want to mention it now, that'd be great.
So everything that everybody's talked about and all these things, great. I couldn't agree more. But I feel like we, as Rotarians, it's like we reach out, but we're reaching out within, right? Whether it's each club or, just in like meetings like this, right? But I had, me and Yasser had talked a little bit, and I told him, why don't we do a district-wide campaign? We're not reaching out to the public. We reach out to the public in service, but we're not on a whole.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I told Yasser we could, I have an RV, wrap it and create, whether we're doing speaking engagements at school, colleges, community centers of sorts, meeting with other leaders, whether it's on a government level or, just campaigning for Rotary to the general public. I grew up and I didn't know what Rotary was. Heard the name, but that's it. And so as a Rotarian now, people look at me and I'm kind of like, they're like, you don't fit the mold of what they think a Rotarian is, right? Just knowing me, where I grew up. And so I'm out promoting it, but just in little pockets, right? And I'm like, well, why aren't we doing this on a grander scale to bring awareness to what Rotary does?
Right. That's great. Yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned it. I'm glad that it's been recorded, because when we send everything out, kind of we'll have this whole litany of things that people want to try and suggestions and all of that. So it's been wonderful. Thank you. Okay. So these are just some recent examples. There may be others, just to give you an idea. And just on a personal note, I feel like in some instances, Rotary has been somewhat reactive and a little bit slow, but I feel like they're catching up now. It seems like they're not waiting for others and then following suit. They seem to be taking more initiative, which I think is great. Okay. So what can we innovate? So there's different ways to think about innovation and what types of things we have the opportunity to innovate. So we can innovate what we do. So if you think about, we're not a manufacturer, we're not making a widget, but we do things, right? Rotary clubs do things. They do things for their membership. They do things for their community. So there can be innovation in the actual what we do, what we deliver. Okay, I'm just throwing these out. So one opportunity is innovation in what we do as Rotarians and as Rotary clubs. We can innovate how we do what we do. So that would be like the virtual model. We can innovate the how, the approach we take. the strategy, not necessarily the what, but the how. And if we innovate the how, that could include, depending upon what it is, when and where. One thing, and I don't know if any of your clubs are in this situation, but once the hybrid online model was happening and clubs were meeting online or had an online component, they started branching out and allowing for membership outside of their community that would be joining their meetings online. Do any of your clubs in that situation where you've got a member or members that are not in your geographic area?
I'm responsible for a club that's doing that. Mountain Air Club has someone that moved to Tennessee, I believe.
And so they're participating online.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And see that we could not have done that without the technology, right? You couldn't have had, it would have been much more difficult to have a Rotarian in Tennessee be an active member with a club in our district if there was not that technology that allowed for them to participate as easily. We can, on occasion, innovate why we do what we do. So we can innovate the what, we can innovate the how. The why is kind of interesting. One thing, and I feel like Rotary has done a good job of kind of balancing this to say, we want you to try things, but you're still a Rotary Club. You can't be something, you can't be not a Rotary Club. So there's some things that you really have to maintain so that the Rotary brand fits your organization. But there's a lot of opportunity in there. There's a lot of wiggle room in terms of what that means. It's a wide lane. So we could innovate why we do. So if you think about, for example, how a Rotary Club interacts with the community for service projects and things like that, there's an opportunity on occasion to think about why we're doing that and maybe change the entire model. Maybe it's through more collaborative partnerships. I think some of you mentioned that you're partnering with some of your competitors, things like that. So there could be something like really at the foundation of your club that can be adjusted. Again, if it fits the needs, like Tom was saying, fits the needs of the members and fits the needs of the community that you're serving. With artificial intelligence, we may be able to innovate who does the doing, but we don't necessarily want to dive into that today, but it is out there. And I do see that people are using AI in a responsible way to kind of help. Was there a question? I heard something.
Actually, AI, it's not so far from us, even though we, the seniors, then they are more in the clubs. Then I see some young people in this workshop. We have to learn. Yep. We have to go there.
Yep.
It will be a need. It's not like a luxury anymore.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how, I mean, when cell phones came out and all of a sudden that became like an entry point to the world through social media and all of that, I mean, it's not a phone anymore. It's a world linking device that happens to be a phone. And there was like nervousness about it. It was like, this is too new and how are we going to, same with AI and same with these other things. And after a while, we kind of absorb this new technology into how we live. We figure out how to make it work. So again, it's just very exciting times. If anything,
Jeff, I think it was very interesting in John's address to the Institute when he was listing the 5 primary factors for Rotary's future, that AI was listed.
Yeah.
Now, I was disappointed that he didn't go into any of the details on how that is going to affect the organization. But to be in the top 5, I thought was quite interesting.
Yeah. And again, I agree, and it does seem like it's kind of taking more initiative and not waiting for everyone else to figure it out, and then Rotary kind of comes along, you know. So I totally agree. Okay. So a few considerations. We're gonna take a break in a few minutes and then go to the breakout groups, but just a few considerations. And again, these are not an exhaustive list. There may be others. Well, so Tom Simon kind of alluded to this. Who are we innovating for? Right? Everything should have a strategic objective. Who are we doing this for? So think about kind of the end game. Are we doing it for our current members? Are we doing it for potential members? Are we doing it for the community we serve? Are we doing it for our partners? So just like with anything else, there should always be like an intent, an end game. What's, as Tom said, what's the need that we want to address? So innovation should not be a push, it should be a pull. But the push doesn't have to wait for a crisis. Sorry, the pull doesn't have to wait for a crisis. It's just that we determine that there's something out there where innovation would be an opportunity to address it. Tom, did you want to add anything since you were the one who brought up the needs assessment?
Yeah, I guess when I say needs assessment, I think of the concept of what's the phrase? Exchange of value. Yeah, I think you know what I'm looking for, Jeff. What's the common term for?
Was it a value proposition?
Yeah, value proposition. Thank
Is
you.
it the juice? Is the squeeze worth the juce? Something like that.
Yeah. What did you say, yes, sir?
Is the squeeze worth the juice? Something like that.
I hadn't heard that way of putting it, but yeah, the value proposition. But what I'm looking for is what are we offering in exchange for membership in Rotary? And what are you getting out of it? And I think we shouldn't be afraid to talk about that value proposition. We really, in my view, shouldn't be asked to join a club unless there's something in it for them. And we can articulate that, what that is. Is it friendship? Is it the opportunity to serve your community? Is it more business? Is it, the opportunity to learn leadership skills? What's the value? Why should you join Rotary? What's in it for you? And we certainly want you to be a part of it and integrate your needs into our needs. But that's really what I think in order to attract new members, we need to be ready to explain why they should join Rotary.
I think, though, also in that concept, we need to remember to think about how people self-identify and how do they find their needs. In other words, it's just like youth exchange. How do you find what's inside you that fits into the Rotary model? So I think that is a two-way street. Just us saying, oh, youth exchange is great. It doesn't necessarily mean that the student should do it. The student has to have something intimate inside them that makes them want to be that ambassador. So there's a two-way street in that.
Absolutely.
As you were saying that, I don't know if this has been expressed yet the way I was just thinking about it, but we are part of an organization that is in the process of morphing. It is changing. And we are adjusting to those changes. And I mean, some of those changes are pretty dramatic. So at a minimum, we want to understand and keep up, but then it's like, yes, we're changing. And oh, by the way, while we're changing, you have a lot more opportunity to try things that maybe you were not for. As long as there's a purpose, an intent, a need. Okay. Why do we need a breakthrough change? Again, this is just something to think about. We've already talked about this, but let's say you're meeting with your club board and you're talking about strategic planning for the next few years. In order to accomplish the goals that you want to accomplish, is breakthrough change needed? And if so, why? Why can't we just trim around the edges and achieve what we want? So this is a thought that Rotary clubs and the district should have when we're looking at what we want to try to accomplish. And if it looks like we can't get there tweaking around the edges, then we really need to think about the breakthrough change. It should be a strategic consideration. And not everything is going to need a breakthrough change. Doesn't mean the club's not going to do it, but we may have a goal that we can achieve just by change. So it's not like everything needs breakthrough change, but we should understand, based on what it is we want to accomplish, whether breakthrough change will get us there. What level of risk are we willing to accept? And what can we do to further mitigate it? Yes.
I'd like to offer another comment relative to the breakthrough change. Jeff, and what you said, that Rotary International is morphing. And I'm recognizing that also, I think mainly because of involvement with the Foundation Committee for a couple of years. That change at that level, I think that we have to ask ourselves at the club level, does that fit our club? And I'm thinking of sort of one of the downsides is, if we make certain changes, are we going to lose some members? There may be a net gain overall, but we all have people who enjoy their club exactly as it is. So I guess what I'm really throwing out a caution is we need to be very conscious of the process of change so that we hopefully bring everybody along that's currently enjoying their experience in Rotary. And I think that's an overriding question that keeps coming up to me when I think about change. So in other words, it's easy to be excited about a change, but you want to make sure that it's not you and 3 other people in the club that are excited. So
yep,
there's a process to that change that we need to be very careful about.
That is very well stated.
Jeff, can we talk about that a little bit more? Because it's something I really run into quite a bit, that a club might tell me that, well, we love our club how it is, or we're doing really good. And then I walk away thinking, well, that club has lost 50% of membership in the last 10 years. Though I'm hearing that they like the way things are and things are running great, but historically that club has decreased significantly. So I don't have an answer what the comeback to that would be, but I'll hear that we like how our things are going, but historically things have been on the decline. So what would be the response to that? And I've been running into that in a couple of clubs.
I have a suggested response.
Okay, and then Dan, I think you had something also.
Well, I was just trying to say, we're supposedly a bottom-up organization, and that innovation, largely those breakthroughs, largely need to come from the rank and file, not from the top down, and that's the only way they're going to work. And Yasser's pointing out something that is critical, as did Scott. We have people who are happy the way it is. Well, maybe we need another club in that area for the people that are not happy the way it is. That's not the only option, but I mean, we need to explore those options. What are the options? What can we do? And I think that's our innovation. It's how do we reach those who want to serve, but don't fit the traditional model.
Tom, go ahead.
And that gets back to the idea of hybridization and the changes, being open to the idea of maintaining an original model on some level and being introducing those club members to the other possibility. For instance, the satellite club, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I think it was hard for some of our Rotarians to understand that that was beneficial, but gosh, you know, my satellite club's got 10, 12 members. So the satellite model is great. It's meeting at an evening bar or restaurant sort of scenario, which some Rotarians don't really care for, but offering hybridization is critical in that idea.
Yeah, definitely. Tom?
Yes, first, from what Yasser said regarding the response to those clubs that like it the way it is, quite often what those clubs like, among other things, is the service work that they're doing in the community. But if they're losing members, I think the response to that is, how are you going to make your work in Rotary, which is outstanding, sustainable well into the future? And if you're not increasing membership, then you will eventually lose those people that are so passionate about those service projects. So they need to be regularly refreshing their membership in order to continue the good work they're doing in their community. I think that's sort of my response to that. Michelle, yes. And Dan, yes. We don't want to change. Well, first of all, in many respects, I think we're still functioning in a model that started when Rotary started in 1905. And in terms of, say, the way my club, which is a traditional lunch meeting with all the bells and whistles of Rotary, I think it's been that way for many, many years in Rotary. So innovation means reaching out and looking for new ways to meet. So we don't necessarily I don't think Rotary Club of Santa Fe wants to change our methodology very much. But if there are people in the community or in our club that do want to change, then by all means, let's let some of those club members strike out and do an evening meet at the bar club or a virtual club or any innovative idea that meets their needs. And by doing so, I think we ultimately increase the vibrancy of Rotary and the membership of Rotary.
Well said. Laura, you put something in the chat and there's some feedback to clarify. Can you take a minute and talk about the exploiting risk?
Sure. So risks are not always negative. There are positive risks as well. And when we're thinking about what risks might come with our innovations, we also need to think about the positive risks that might come and how would we capitalize on those risks if that happens. For example, let's say that you are creating a new club and it's overwhelmingly popular, and you know, how are you going to set the structure and the focus so that that club can continue to be even more successful? How are you going to ensure that that the current club that perhaps, you know, going to do that mitigation of risk might be able to take some of those things that you did in that new model and incorporate them for themselves? I mean, how can you replicate that model in other areas of the district? Those are all risks that are positive and that could be utilized to keep the positive risk change going.
That's great. I have on occasion been referred to as a walking risk. I never quite understood that, but maybe there's a little positive in there too. Do we have time, or does it have to happen quickly? So what we're saying here is that if we have time, we can incorporate it into our plans and think through it and try things and adjust and all of that, so that when whatever this thing is that we're doing rolls out, it's gone through various phases. But if we've got to do it quickly, and sometimes that happens, then we may not have the luxury of going through that thought process. It doesn't mean we're not going to do it. It's just a consideration. Innovation can happen quickly. It can happen slowly. But the process may be a little bit different, and it's just something to think about. And at the club level, there may be times when a decision needs to be made pretty quickly to avert something or to react to a circumstance, whatever it happens to be. So it's just more of a, what's the time frame that we're looking to implement this breakthrough change? Similarly, are we in a reactive mode or are we in a proactive mode? So with COVID, we were in a reactive mode.
I would say the answer to that is yes. We are in a reactive mode because we are losing membership worldwide, but especially, well, not worldwide, especially in North America right now. So it's not related specifically to our district. And so we are reacting to that, but we are also in a proactive mode because we are generating ideas and we are going to be sharing those ideas, working with each other and trying to create positive change in the future.
Yep. And one way to think about it, just, well, oftentimes if I'm doing work with organizations and they're trying to make an improvement, they start with a problem statement. This is the problem. It's negatively stated. In some cases, it's not a problem, it's an opportunity, or it's a problem that we turn into an opportunity. So if things are going pretty well and we want to do better, we may not think of it as a problem, but we still want to do better than how we're currently doing. So either one is valid. It's just more of what's the basis for why we want to do this breakthrough change.
Jeff, I would question Laura's statement that Rotary is losing membership, because our membership has been, as an organization, constant for 15 years. I think what we're seeing is that the membership is shifting. Rotary in the US, in Britain, in Australia is tanking, but Rotary in India, Africa, Korea is booming. Korea is going to have probably 80 to 100,000 members in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think one of the things that we need to include in our consideration is that why are we seeing this shift? Why is membership growing in these other countries, and why is this problem not unique to the US?
Another aspect to it, Dick, is that some of the members are leaving, new members are coming in. So we're just having a revolving door where members are leaving. And so it's not just a membership increase issue, it's a membership retention issue.
Yep.
It's on our part, it's definitely a membership retention issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, a few more slides, then we're going to take a break. So common approaches, these are not all of them, but just things to think about if your club wants to kind of develop and implement some kind of innovation strategy. So just a few things. Involve new people, and I put new in quotes. It could be new to Rotary. It could be new to the Rotary Club. So they could be, let's say, a transfer. They could be young people. The implication here is that new people don't typically have the same bias or the same, this is the way we do things mentality. So they will often come with an idea that may not be new to them, but it's new to us because we were in our box, we were thinking of our current situation. So involving new people, getting that different perspective generally will bubble up some innovative suggestions. Was there a comment or a question on that? Involving people with diversity of perspective and background. So kind of similar to the first one, but if there's a group of people that are trying to come up with something and they all think similarly, the likelihood is they're not going to come up with the same brash, bold new idea than if you have different people with different perspectives and they bring those differences to the discussion and you're listening to the others and coming up with something that maybe none of those people individually would have come up with. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in those situations, you may have too, where someone comes up with an idea or something and everyone just says, yeah, that sounds great. And I'm always like, well, does it really, or do we need to, think through it? So I'd rather have some people respectfully disagree and then we come up with something that may be even better. Brainstorming of some type. People sitting around, thinking through things, doing, maybe if you're together in the same place, you've got a whiteboard and you're using dots and little stickies and things, but some process to brainstorm ideas. And if you're in a situation where your group is brainstorming ideas, you want to brainstorm a lot of ideas. You don't want to just come up with one and you're done. You brainstorm, you come up with a whole slew of ideas, and then the group typically will go through them and say, well, which ones should we look at now? Which ones may provide that breakthrough change that we need? So brainstorming of some type is typically done. So the notion here is that people who tend to have new ideas, those are wonderful people, but you really want a cluster of people thinking about something like this and not rely on individuals.
Jeff?
Yes.
Brainstorming is often a non-starter for people who do it because they don't understand that you have to have then a commitment to an idea and then a plan for implementation of that idea. Not just, oh yeah, we can do that and leave.
Yep. The rubber meets the road when things are executed and implemented. Otherwise, it sounds great, and part of the thinking through the prioritizing of what we're going to do is, can we do that? Do we have the capacity to do that? Do we have the resources to do that? That should all be considered when going through some exercise like this.
Well, and brainstorming also involves risk for those people, like all of the people present here in this meeting, who are really, really busy. And the risk is that if I help brainstorm, that I might be swept into having to do something specific. So being prepared in the brainstorming session to let people know that the ideas you bring to the table are for all of us to do together, so that no one feels like, oh, I'm going to get volunteered during this meeting.
Yep, totally agree. Piloting, testing, adjusting. So again, if we're coming up with something that looks like a breakthrough change, it may not work exactly right the first time. So they typically need to be monitored and adjusted as needed. That's just natural. So if your organization is implementing some breakthrough change, don't let it go. Watch it, see how it's working. Is it giving you the desired results you were looking for? Is it taking more time than you envisioned, or it's involving more people, or whatever it is? So there's a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot. There are definitely times when things that are innovative need to go through like cycles of adjustment. It's just natural to do that. And piloting, try something first. Like, we've got something new. It's really interesting. Let's try it with a small group first, maybe one group, and then if it works, then we expand. So that's pretty common with innovation. And don't discount the silly idea. I love this. In fact, I've been in situations where facilitators would say, we're going to give a $100 Walmart gift certificate to the person who's voted with the silliest idea. And the reason they'll do that is because even if it sounds like a silly idea, sometimes something real can come out of it. Like, wow, that's that's silly, but you know, if we take that and do this little adjustment to it, we could do that. So it's an interesting way of fostering thinking to kind of give an incentive and then say, well, you know, it's really not all that silly.
Can I give a really quick example?
Sure.
All right. So when I used to teach the leadership challenge, the one I used to use for this was that you have an issue in a county where the power lines are being covered with ice and it's causing all kinds of problems with it. And so they want an idea on how to get the ice off the power lines. And so somebody speaks up and says, hey, why don't we get the bears to climb up the poles and shake the lines? And then they said, well, how would you get the bears to climb up the lines? And they're like, well, you could put like a pot of honey up at the top of the pole. And somebody says, well, how would we get the pot of honey up at the top of the pole? And somebody says, well, we could have a helicopter come in and put the pot of honey on top of the pole. And they said, well, would that work? Because the helicopters would be generating all that wind and it would cause all that turbulence. And somebody says, hey, you know, that would actually cause all the ice to vibrate and fall off the lines. And somebody says, all right, well, let's do that. Let's just have the helicopters fly in whenever we have ice on the lines, near the lines, and we'll get rid of the ice that way. So it's a silly idea that leads to something that might be doable.
How absolutely fabulous.
That is awesome. And again, you know, if you start, or whoever's doing it, if they start with the notion that no idea is off the table, then you're more likely going to get kind of the ideas that Laura was talking about. If on the other hand, people come to some brainstorming and it's not reinforced to them that everything is on the table, then the ideas are not going to be breakthrough change type of ideas. Okay. We're going to take a look at the Rotary Action Plan for a minute. Are you seeing the website, the Rotary Action Plan website?
Yes.
Okay. So a few years ago, Rotary developed what they're calling an action plan. And it has 4 priorities. And I would say over the last 2 years and definitely going forward, they are really reinforcing this. They're saying every Rotary Club should be thinking in the context of these 4 priorities. How they address the 4 priorities may be different, but kind of thinking about them as 4 pillars, if you will. And one of the things we just wanted to do before we take a break is look at the 4 and maybe have a quick discussion about how innovation could be aligned or an important aspect to be part of that particular pillar. So as an example, priority 1 is increase our impact. As people of action, we make decisions grounded in evidence, and then it's got a little paragraph underneath. So when you're thinking about increasing impact, can you think of an opportunity for innovation in that particular priority to increase our impact? Something that would be a breakthrough change. And again, if not, that's fine. It might come up in breakouts, but does anyone have any thoughts on increasing impact and what an innovation could be in that area?
Partnering with other clubs and other service organizations or other nonprofits in the area?
Yeah. Especially if we haven't done that much before. And maybe the notion is that by those partnerships, the impact isn't just additive, but it's more like exponential impact. Like much more than what we could have done separately, if that's possible.
Beat me to the punch, because yeah, I was just thinking exactly the same thing, like those matching funds. For every $1 you raise, this partnership's going to match it with $1, and like you said, it's exponential, the impact.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if I mean, it could be innovative, but when the Gates Foundation agreed to match our polio donations, that was certainly a breakthrough change. Okay, expanding our reach. As people of action, we are inclusive, engaging, compassionate, and ambitious on behalf of the world. Can you think of something innovative under the expand our reach principle or priority. And this paragraph down here may help too.
I was gonna say, I heard that when everybody was given the Rotary passports, and we have the section in there which was put in by our Rotary Act students on having more LGBTQ plus Rotary experiences, that some clubs kind of like may have rolled their eyes or things like that. And if we want to expand our reach, we have to go beyond what we may have in our minds as what the norms of Rotary are to make it inclusive for everybody.
Yep. And because there's discussion about new audiences, you know, there's obviously been a big push into social media. I think our district is going to develop a podcast. Now, it's not like we're the only one that's doing a podcast, but it's a breakthrough change to have these new media platforms to share our story and share our message. So that's kind of underway, and it's still going. Okay. Enhance participant engagement. As people of action, we create meaningful relationships across decades and continents. Let's use every encounter as an opportunity to show people what Rotary can do for them as individuals and as members of the community. So enhancing participant engagement, thought about innovation there?
Making sure that every new Rotarian in our clubs are doing the same thing that a Outbound Youth Exchange student is doing, reaching into themselves and telling us when they come to the table, what is it that inspires them about the world so that we can find a project that fits their personality.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Michelle. Any other thoughts on priority number 3? And again, part of why we're showing you this is because in pretty much everything we do, we want to think about those 4 Rotary priorities and whether we are well addressing them. That we're considering all 4 of them as we think through things like this. Last but not least, increase our ability to adapt. As people of action, we seek new perspectives and new ideas that can strengthen Rotary and create lasting change. I don't know about you all, but to me, innovation is in here anyway. It's almost like it's restated. New ideas, new perspectives, adapting, right? Adapting, adjusting, pivoting. We've heard pivot a lot. So create a culture of research, innovation, and willingness to take risks. So we are talking about priority 4, but in reality, we're looking at all 4 of them and how innovation can help us in those different areas. Any thoughts or comments?
I just think
everything we're talking about requires a basic action of separating the butt from the seat. And we're hearing, I hear that from clubs, 3 people do everything, that kind of thing.
Yep.
I think one of the things we may need to work on in innovation is how to separate the butt from the seat.
And I'd like to throw in, my favorite thought that came from Marty Padilla, one of the AGs, was that everything that we do as a club needs to be focused on, has to be fun. It has to be fun. Marty was famous when he was president of saying he wanted the Rotary meeting to be the most fun 1 hour that you have for the whole week. And that can kind of shake things up and make people excited.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. It's 9:27. Can we come back at like 9:35, 25 before the hour? And what we'll do when we come back is we'll talk about the breakout sessions, break you all out, we'll have our discussions, and then reconvene. So we'll come back at 9:35.
Check.
Okay, if you are back, please go ahead and turn on your camera just so we can get an idea of if you are here.
I am here. I don't have my.
Got it. We're going to do a few poll questions. So if you've not yet completed the poll, go ahead and do that, and then we'll share the results. We've got 4 questions.
Did you say 4 questions? I saw 1 question.
We'll do one at a time.
Oh, okay.
Sorry if I misstated that.
You're forgiven.
I'm a high achiever. I want to get them all right.
Yeah, I was looking for the other 3 also. George, thanks for saying something. I figured I just missed it.
Okay, take another 20 seconds or so, and then we'll share.
The best answer is always all of the above.
Yeah.
I saw 1 question. I didn't get any more.
We'll do one at a time. We'll go over the results.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, I didn't say it right. Okay. Stop that. Okay, are you seeing the results?
Yes.
So I think with Zoom recording, sometimes the recording doesn't show this. So it was how many significant changes have happened within your Rotary Club since the pandemic? 57% some changes, 21% very few, if any changes, and 21% many changes. So that's great. A nice bell-shaped curve on its side. As we go through the breakout sessions, those of you who said many changes, please share some of those, and those may be things that we discuss when we report out. Okay, we'll bring up the next question.
You didn't give me the choice of I don't know.
That is true. Okay. And the poll. So have these changes strengthened your Rotary Club? 53% some, 27% not much, and 20% quite a bit. So again, feel free to jump in here. The not much group, if that meant you implemented things and it didn't have the effect, then that means something. If it's we haven't implemented change, so therefore we haven't seen the results, that would be a different implication. It just depends on your club situation. And we certainly want to hear from the quite a bits, because those are the success stories that may be replicatable with in other Rotary clubs. Oh, I don't know if we discussed it before, but replicating a best practice typically means that it might have to be tweaked to fit the new thing. So if you copy something, or if your club copies something, it still may need a minor adjustment to make it fit the essence of your club. It may not be like a 100% match. Okay, question 3. So this is a multiple choice. Okay, here we go. Number 1, comfort zone mentality at 60%. Number 2, lack
Can-
of strategic
Can you share
direction.
it?
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. Thank you.
Got it.
Okay, what is preventing your club from significant change? Choose all that apply. Comfort zone mentality was first at 60%. This was a multiple choice question. Second was lack of strategic direction / focus at 47%. Resistance to change at 40%. None of these apply. We're making significant changes was 13%. Lack of good ideas, 7%. So any aha moments with this one?
It's not a lack of good ideas.
Not a lack of good ideas. But having comfort zone mentality as the highest does suggest that whatever strategy we come up with for bringing innovative ideas to light, there has to be some open and honest discussions with the ones that have that comfort zone mentality.
It's hard to identify the difference between comfort zone mentality and resistance to change because I may perceive it as resistance, but it may be their internal comfort zone driving the bus.
Agreed.
This
Okay.
comfort zone mentality response suggests that there are people in that club that are trying to make changes that are unable
Yeah.
to because of the resistance.
Right.
So that would be a really interesting discussion to find out what kinds of changes they're trying to make and what the nature of the resistance is.
Something I've seen is there's a lot of great ideas out there, but a lot of times people are a little bit scared to run with them or promote them out of fear of the resistance that I'm going to bring up this new idea and it's going to be knocked down right away. It takes gut to bring up an idea and keep pushing through.
It's true, Yasser. It's also, as Dan has said, it's the butts in the chair syndrome that an idea takes a champion, and it's not always a quick implementation. It requires some really careful strategic thinking and building consensus, and it's not easy to implement a new idea. It really takes time.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if one of our strategies would be to have uncomfortable chairs.
Yeah, good idea. Or have a standing meeting.
Lack of strategic direction and focus. That one is interesting because Rotary, kind of like with innovation, they've put a lot more focus on that action plan and for clubs to have strategic plans, which we will help clubs with this year and going forward. So hopefully, if we do this survey in a year or so, the lack of strategic direction and focus will be a smaller percentage. Okay, last question. And Michael, because you're with your president-elect, but you're on one computer, you must agree to every question. Okay. Would it be helpful for your Rotary Club to have significant changes happen next? Oh, and we put in parentheses because we certainly want the changes to be a plus if we can. Over the next 2 to 3 years, 80% yes, 13% maybe, and 7% no. The no group is interesting because if it's a no, then the follow-up question, and we won't divulge any confidentiality, but why is that? And what's the root cause of that? And I think just going forward, it would be interesting to kind of flush that out. Okay. Oh, go ahead.
I don't mind admitting to be a no answer. We've made some substantive changes over the years, and I guess I answered no just because I think we're doing pretty well. Our membership is growing. We have implemented some changes, new location. I
Cool.
could list them, but we're doing all right. And so significant innovation or change for our club wouldn't necessarily improve things.
That makes sense. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to go into breakout rooms. I'm going to put in the chat the 4 questions we're going to be addressing, and we're going to have 3 rooms. One is going to be led by Ophelia, and one is going to be led by Jen, and one is going to be led by me. And I just want to make sure that we haven't. Who is Agenda? I just saw Agenda pop up on the computer. Is that's not an AI, is it?
No,
That's Dick Jones. Dick Jones is the Agenda.
He's Mr. Agenda.
That's always that's
Governor
always a
Agenda.
true
So we're going to
statement.
break into 3 groups. We're going to have an open and honest discussion to address the 4 questions I'm going to put in the chat. We're going to meet in those breakout groups till at least 10:15, maybe a little longer. We're going to come back, have a report out from the 3 groups. So when you go into your 3 groups, please assign who's going to do the presentation back to the main group, and then we will close. So I'm going to put
each group is going to have all 4 questions.
Correct. Yep.
And each group is gonna choose one person to present our findings, correct?
Yes, although if you want to do it in pairs, that's, however we all decide to do that. Do you see the questions? Okay.
No.
In the chat? Yeah.
In the chat.
In the chat.
Oh.
So when we break out, Jen and Ophelia are going to record, and I'm going to record, so that in the final version, we all will see everything anyway. Okay, I want to make sure we have everyone covered. All right, here we go.
Hello. Can you hear me okay, Monica? Great. Hello, everybody. And I might try, oh, shoot. Okay, so what's interesting is that it's saying it's recording already. So hold on one second.
Yeah, I see recording.
Yeah, and it's not supposed to because there's cloud versus local recording. So I'm just going to give Jeff a heads up. And hello, George. For those of you who aren't on the call, when we first joined, George and I have like a Newman Seinfeld relationship. Not really, but I like to greet him that way.
So he's Newman and you're Seinfeld?
Well, I don't know. George, it's up to you. George is really nice.
I'm easy
We
going.
refer to him as George the Younger.
Yeah.
I like
George
George.
the
I like
Younger.
George the Great, actually.
That fits.
right.
Where's chat? I got to go back to okay, there's the questions.
So I think, and I can share it, but can everybody see the questions still in chat?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So let's get started. So the first question is, what are some examples of innovation in Rotary that you've been part of, seen, or heard about?
One of the things that comes to mind right off the bat in our club is the pop-ups. And they were started about 2 years ago by our president, who likes to get out and about in Santa Fe and go to things, and also her partner John Triello, who enjoys checking out the bars and the restaurants and various things. So they just decided, let's invite all our Rotarian friends every time we do that. There's one this afternoon. So whenever they tend to be the driving force behind it, and it's been really interesting to see how relationships
in Rotary are expanding outside of Rotary, which makes Rotary much more fun and interesting and develops relationships that wouldn't otherwise develop just on a 1-hour meeting on a Thursday afternoon.
Very cool.
And Tom, could you just say, is that like once a week, once a month at a different location?
It's just periodically. It's, it's hard to find, one of the challenges of innovation is finding a champion. And this was something that they were kind of doing anyway. And so it was easy. And they just started inviting Rotarians and announcing it at the meetings. So it doesn't happen on a regular basis. It's periodic, but there's maybe on average, Dick, would you say 1 or 2 per month?
Usually I would say about 1, but part of the uniqueness and kind of the fun of it is that it's a true pop-up. So it's no rhyme or reason. And so you can't really plan it. We continue to have events that are set, like we're planning our party in celebration of Polio Plus, and that's calendared, and we'll take a more traditional. But like this afternoon, got a text message yesterday and said, show up if you want to.
Yeah.
So some
it's
people
short,
can,
short
some people
notice.
can't.
Right. If you can go, you go. If you can't, you can't. But we've done like opening night at the baseball game, and there's lots of showing up at Tumble Root, which is a gathering place in Santa Fe, and it's
alcohol seems to be the common factor.
True.
Cool. Okay. Any other ideas? Examples of innovation?
I think another example that our club should be really proud of is the effort that the club put in the Centennial Project, and the fact that they were willing to commit such an incredible amount to the planning process. This took 2 years just in planning, because we did community assessment, we interviewed civic leaders, we interviewed the mayor, we interviewed people of faith, people with nonprofit organizations, and then built a plan. And then within the guidelines of that plan, we spent the second year investigating 20 or 30 different organizations to come up with a plan that would have some impact and meet the criteria that we had set. And then we acted on it. And one of the takeaways, other than the success of the 2 projects, is that we've realized that we have much more impact within the committee or within the community going through a process like that, where we do the study and address the community needs, and our visibility within the community has been increased, and our relationship with the 2 nonprofits that we chose to partner with are developing into long-term relationships. And I think part of our membership growth has to be credited to these relationships.
Yeah.
I have one possibly in Los Lunas. It's not, well, it doesn't really fit the innovation exactly, but we have a traditional fundraiser, a pancake breakfast everybody had lost interest in it. So this year we found a new fundraiser that has the potential for being much larger, and it's so radically different that I think it's going to generate a lot of excitement and involvement that the previous one had lost. What you think? You think, Dan, maybe?
Well, I'd love to
Yeah,
hear.
I think that's accurate. I'm the one that voiced some opposition because what they did was throw out the fundraiser that we needed to raise funds this year in favor of a fundraiser for raising funds for next year. And so that means we're going to struggle in meeting our obligations this year for kids and RILA and scholarships and those kinds of things.
So what's the new fundraiser?
Jazz.
Jazz in the Desert.
Okay,
It
right.
will be a jazz group, and then some of the Los Lunas and the Valencia jazz bands, in addition to a professional group.
Think of it as like what Gallup does with the they bring in a big sports personality, and it involves the whole community. Our pancake breakfast was kind of just real small, but the Jazz in the Desert has a potential of involving the whole county of Valencia, of making it a much larger event.
It'll be a dinner at the Isleta Casino with the jazz presentations.
Nice.
Okay. And
I don't know
I'll
if
just,
this.
oh,
Go ahead,
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, Michael. I was just going to say, just getting one thing I had wanted to mention on the community assessment is I want to put a plug in for the Rotary Learning Center. There is a course on how to conduct a community assessment. So I just wanted to point everybody to that. But sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, like we've made changes in our club as far as, whether it's meeting times and even now the venue. But to the kind of the subject of the pancake breakfast and people not being maybe as enthused or motivated, we had the same thing happen to us with our golf tournament this last year. And to the point that like 2 weeks before it was supposed to happen, we had to cancel it because we just had zero participation, both from within the club and from outside. And so we too are looking for, to change our fundraising events. And so, like Mr. Garrison said, right, it is that, like, how do you make that shift? Because you do need the fundraiser to help raise money for the coming year. But if it's not working, so we've come up with an idea to, instead of one grand fundraiser, that we're going to try to do quarterly, smaller events. And I had to step out for a minute when I came back. Yes, it does feel like drinking is very much a an incentive to it. So some of ours will involve some of that. So,
and I'd like to suggest the Del Norte Club as an innovation, because they do something different than all the rest of us. They have two regular meetings a month, on the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday, or something like that. And then on the alternate Wednesdays, they have their satellite club meets. So they only have 2 regular club meetings a month, but then they have 2 satellite club meetings a month. So members can go back and forth between the 2. And so that's pretty innovative.
Like what size are your guys' clubs as far as members?
We're at about 30 at Los Lunas.
Okay.
I think we're at about 90, right, Dick?
Yeah.
Okay.
See, really, there's in the central area, there's 3 big clubs: Albuquerque, Del Norte, and Del Sol, and everybody else is like in a different category.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is true. And let me just pause here because I need someone to volunteer, or I'll voluntold you if you want, but I need a report back person. Is anybody willing to do that, or should I tell George he has to do it?
I think George should
George is really good at that.
Okay, I'll try.
Oh, and I'm taking notes, George. I can share them with you.
Thank you.
You're
The-
welcome. Thank you, George. Okay, so that was question one.
Addressing George,
Go ahead.
addressing George's comment, it's I think our challenge is really exemplified when we look at those clubs. Because if you, for instance, the Rotary Club of Albuquerque is sitting at about 135 members right now. It had been as high as 400. So, you know, that the crisis is exemplified there, but it is not unique to the Rotary Club of Albuquerque. Rotary Club of El Paso, I think, has greater loss. So I think that gives credibility to the fact that we do need to look at optional ways of meeting, addressing meetings, and I really think that the future is going to be in the smaller clubs.
Do we have any kind of data that shows like the clubs and like demographic of like age? Like some of these clubs that are large, is it like a large retirement and the people have more time to devote versus maybe smaller clubs are younger people? You know, I don't know. You know, I feel like some of that plays into our club and our growth or lack of participation. I find that the younger people definitely needed, right? Everybody's needed. But the younger people come in and it's like, well, I have 2-3 kids, and so I'm involved in soccer and baseball and so on, and so they can't participate. If they're younger, work interferes, work travel, work meetings, that type of stuff, versus a different demographic that has the time that they can devote to Rotary.
And Michael, this is what Del Norte says. Their advantages. They said we've got our older, richer members going to our regular lunch meetings, and we've got our younger people that are more available for doing service projects and can't afford as easily the monthly lunch meetings are coming to our satellite meeting. So we have our service projects that are being manned by our younger members that go to the satellite meetings, and it's being financed by our wealthier members who aren't physically active to go out and do service projects. That's what they claim anyway.
I think you see the need for the diversity of membership. A friend of mine was very involved in American Red Cross, and he was very excited when their local chapter started getting all of these young people on the board of directors. And the board was very active, had a lot of innovative ideas, because it was all these young people that were coming to it. And because it was a prestigious organization within their community, the employer would allow them, an hour or two off on a monthly basis for a board meeting. And so the board was very vibrant. But then when they went out to do a community fair, or they had a local fire that they had to respond to, their results just plummeted because they didn't have the older people on the committee that had the time to respond at night, in the afternoon. And so that diversity of membership becomes really critical when you start looking at what you're going to do with your club.
Yep, agreed.
I just had a really quick question about, we were talking about how some of the clubs have decreased substantially. Has anybody reached out to the members who have left and asked why they no longer want to participate in Rotary to give us an idea of why we continue to lose?
I have a comment on that, and probably Dick, you might have something to fill in as well. So locally, for each club, that's up to each club to track and follow up. So each club might have some data, but Rotary does do research on that. So there is data available on why people leave Rotary in general. But it's club by club in terms of what's happening with each individual at the club level. Am I right in saying that, Dick, or do you think, is there something I don't know about?
Rotary International has captured that data. They aren't real free in sharing it. The best source for that information is if your club has been running Club Runner, or you have access to the data within the district Club Runner, is to go back and look at your club's information to get the name of the member and reach out to them. A lot of people aren't real concerned with completing exit interviews or giving a reason for leaving. But if they're given some time after they've been departed, they may be willing to share why they left or whether or not they're willing to come back.
Most common things that we hear are lack of time and i.e. business demands. Or number two is it's too expensive. Talking to some of the people privately, it's they didn't feel involved enough and they disagreed politically with the club. Because our club is largely conservative,
and we have so many political discussions.
Yeah.
Oh, really? That is something to be careful of.
That was a sarcastic
Well, it's
comment.
outside of the actual meeting.
We have no political discussions.
Okay, I was going to say, because Rotary is supposed to be apolitical and a-religious, and
I think we have 10 minutes to cover the last three questions.
I know, I'm trying to. Well, that's what happens when we get leaders together to talk. It's yeah. So let me steer us back on track. Thank you, George. What current challenges does your Rotary Club have that we could help innovate solutions for, if any? So are there any current challenges that anybody wants to brainstorm through?
I think a continuing challenge that we all have is the traditional view of Rotary that the public has. Rotarians are a bunch of stuffy old men who meet for lunch.
I think another challenge is the board meetings. Boards do not know how to operate. You have to have a chairman of the board that runs the meeting. There has to be an agenda. It has to be sent out in advance. And then when the minutes have to be kept and it has to be logged in what people are going to do what. So I've seen meetings where the board meets, they have a big discussion and everybody leaves and it was to no purpose.
Yeah.
And they don't share that information with the club.
Yes.
Or with the board members that were not at the meeting.
That were not there.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more with any of that stuff. The challenge that we face with what Ben said right there is, for instance, like if you don't have enough people showing up to your meetings, to give everybody the task, right? Whether it's somebody taking minutes, whether it's somebody reporting back, is that it's kind of like the duties are shared, but if people aren't consistent, then the job's not getting done consistently, which leads to the chaos.
I think we see in a lot of the smaller clubs, and I'm including mine in that you have a leader or two that is carrying the entire club.
Right.
And you're doing that, Michael. You know
And
it. You're carrying your club largely.
Right.
True. And we
It's your
do see that in
enthusiasm in your work.
for sure. And we do see that in a lot of clubs. Although interestingly, just to connect back, we said one of the reasons people leave is that they don't feel involved enough. So it's funny, like how do we get to those people that don't feel involved enough and bring them along?
Yeah, we have a particular Rotarian in our club, and he expressed to me that he was getting ready to quit. But he stayed because he did see, you know, some things that we were doing different, and which made me feel good. At the same time, I'm like, but you don't participate. Right. So I was like, and he's a long time member. So I was a little disheartened that that's how he felt, because I was like, you've been here a lot longer than me, but your participation is a, you know, minute, and but you don't feel like we're active enough, or we're, you know, and I'm like, you don't show up to none of the projects, you don't, you know, you chime in on, you know, how you don't want to spend money, but so, you know, that is interesting, Jen, that's why people leave.
Yeah.
So the second part of this was how can we help with those challenges? Back to the first comment, like the perception of stuffy old men going to a lunch meeting. I think Michael's idea that he shared earlier could be a good idea for that, right? If we go out there and we show that we're a diverse group of people and this is what we do and these are who we help, his little road show could really change that perspective of what Rotary is.
Yeah, I really do feel that we need to do a campaign, you know, district wide. I mean, bigger than that, but we're just talking about our district. And, you know, I really think that we need to go out. I mean, if it wasn't for, you know, Mr. Garrison, for Andrew, I mean, you know, we grew up together, you know, but, you know, obviously because you being his father, you know, he was introduced to Rotary, and he's the one that introduced me to Rotary. But, you know, that's 50 years later in my life that I didn't know. I didn't know what Rotarians did. Had no idea that I was a Rotarian at heart, really, right? And so I think that we need to campaign to show people exactly what Mr. Garrison said, is that it's not what people think it is.
One of the
I
things
would
that's
mention
happening,
that,
George, one of the things that's happening with our club and in our community is our Interact Club is making a large of that part of that difference for us. You know, where they got service learning class in the school, they now have a full-time teacher teaching service learning. And that's because of demand from the kids and the community. They see what happens when the kids' hearts are involved in helping others. That helps change that perception.
Absolutely. And I think we need to really look at our youth programs for growth in Rotary, because as Dan said, it broadens the perspective. We need to be recruiting for next summer's RILA right now. RILA is in a crisis mode, and we can't wait until May, when everyone's calendar is filled up for the summer, to ask those kids to go to camp. We need to be in there talking about it now. And we need to be talking to kids that are in the 9th grade about going on a youth exchange. You can't walk up to them in the middle of their junior year and say, hey, do you want to go to Spain to school next year? We need to be more strategic in promoting our youth programs.
And going back to getting the word out on Rotary, one of the things we have members that live in a over 55 community called Jubilee. They have a big annual arts and crafts fair, and so this weekend our club has a Rotary booth at their arts and crafts fair to say, hey, we're Rotary, this is what we do. So that's a first for us.
Very cool. Okay. Just so I do my job as facilitator, I'm going to move us on to the next question. Is there likely some resistance to innovation at your club? And if so, what can be done to lessen that resistance?
There's always resistance to change.
I say involvement. If you if you involved people in the decision or in the change, then maybe they'd be more okay with it. Sorry, Mr. Garrison.
No, you're not stepping on you. That was the next place to go. And please, the name is Dan. We're colleagues in Rotary. I'm not Mr. Garrison anymore, Michael.
I was going to say Michael grew up with Andrew, right? It's funny. Any other resistance to innovation that you're seeing in your club? And what could be
I
done?
think some people are unsure of their place in change. And what Michelle was saying, yeah, helping people find that place. You know, what can you do if we do such and such? Is key to making innovation work.
And I know it's harder in the larger clubs, or I'm sure it's harder in the larger clubs, but I think in the smaller and mid-sized clubs, it's critically important to talk to everybody one-on-one.
Yeah, the one resistor in a small club can derail things, whereas that's not the case in a large club.
That's true too. All right. If nothing else,
I think again, we've talked about making sure people have full information, and then follow that with full involvement in where we're going. You know, because we have a good idea doesn't mean that it doesn't need to be tweaked or looked or changed to fit the needs of our membership.
So I think because we also have a small group, we were talking about for one of our happy hours, I think the next one, we're going to do kind of like a little planning meeting on who are we as a club, where do we want to go, and what are the tasks we're going to do to get there. And we wanted to have as much participation in that meeting as possible so everybody's voice is heard. It's not something that's just pushed down on them, but what do you want to see and how can we get there?
Nice.
So is kind of a club, you hold like kind of a club town hall or a club assembly and pull the club members during a meeting?
Yes, that is our current plan at one of our happy hours, just because it gives us the ability to go long if we need to. But really, back to Michael saying that we didn't have our golf tournament this year, and so that was a lot of things that funded our club too. And so we do see a lot of changes, both forced changes and changes that people want to see in general. Just an ability to, like I said, give everybody a voice, understand why people are in our club and what they would like to see. And we have a hard time getting a lot of participation in certain activities. Back to, if it's their ideas, then maybe we get that involvement in the hands-on projects or the organizations that we want to help out. So that's our next plan on trying to figure out if it works. We've done a lot of pivoting in the last 2 years, some not so successful. So we're continuing to try to add ideas to the club and see if they take.
That's
One of the things that we found in the Rotary Club of Santa Fe that breaks down resistance is involvement of the senior members. And one of the activities that our presidents have done is to invite past presidents to breakfast 2-3 times a year and just say, this is what the board has been talking about. And we want your input. You hold the corporate knowledge of this organization. Have you tried any of this? Has it worked? What What do you see? Would you be supportive of it? And that buy-in can be very, very valuable.
I'm thinking of my club where everybody's been a past president.
I'm thinking the same thing too.
The whole club goes to breakfast.
I think that will work too, George. You just have to take it out of the setting of your regular club meeting.
I'd be
Yeah,
talking to myself.
All right, and last question, and we can come back to the earlier ones if we end up with time. But number 4, what are some techniques we can apply to promote, foster innovation in our Rotary clubs?
Techniques to foster innovation.
One is ask for ideas and then be open to hearing those ideas. Those are two different things.
Very summed up in one sentence.
And some people ask for ideas and they really don't want to hear what you have to say. But we need to be open to those ideas and take them seriously in working with the group.
I think we need to look around and see what other clubs, not necessarily in our district, but around the United States, are doing to promote innovation and membership and growth. And in, you know, whatever, there's so many different models that are floating around. And we typically become so myopic in our view of our club, of our district, that we fail to look at other areas. And I know there's a lot of innovative clubs around the West. And you can find them on the Zone website, or just, you know, looking for different types of club websites and looking at those. But there's some clubs that really have some unique approaches.
So there's a lot of things out there that you just have to get people to look at, like the going to district conferences or district training events, or reading Rotary magazine, or attending the area council meeting. There's just a handful of people, the same people, that are attending most of those events.
Something that I've been...
One of the things.
Oh, hold on, Dan. Yeah, well, I think Monica had something first. Monica, did you want to go ahead?
I was just going to mention the idea of look around and see what other clubs are doing. If we could even figure that out, like narrow our search, right? What clubs are expanding? What clubs do any of them have a huge increase, and what are they doing, right? As opposed to focusing on the biggest picture, which is still a good idea, but understanding the clubs that are growing, what are they doing to grow theirs? And then maybe those are ideas we could try.
Case studies, maybe similar
Yes.
clubs. What are they doing that's working? Okay, Michael.
And mine kind of incorporates a little bit of the innovation. Is that something that it's been playing? I haven't fully put it into practice, but the one thing we have done is we changed venues, and I'm hoping by changing the venue we've changed to is going to give us more exposure to the public because of where it's at, right? And I'm coming from a business standpoint. I'm like, what do I do when I need to pivot in my business? Right now we're going through some growth changes, so I'm having to pivot and put key people into these roles. So taking that same practice into Rotary, I'm looking at it and saying, okay, I got to go out and hand recruit people for my club. They're going to fit these positions, if you would, to be successful, just like I have to do in my business. And so I've been analyzing people that I know, people that I meet, and taking note and kind of categorizing them on the side here. then to approach them to be like, look, I want to invite you to a Rotary meeting. I think, you know, and that's kind of how Andrew Garrison kind of poached me, right? He was like, hey, come to this happy hour with me. All right, you know, I went, but really he was, and then he kind of hit me with, you'd make a good Rotarian. And that's kind of how he sold me on it, right? Like that's how he introduced me to it. And so I was like, okay, well, how did I come into the club? So maybe I need to do the same thing and go out and just hand pick members. And my point is that maybe every member needs to go out and hand pick members of the community in things that they're already doing, right? Like Andrew spotted the fact that I was already helping nonprofits, that I was doing certain things. And he's like, that makes a good Rotarian, which filled my heart because I didn't know how to connect those dots. I was just getting up every day and just doing what I do. But now I found like a family, a platform to do what is important to me.
Yep. Dan?
That would be a good
Well,
story.
it's going to say
Rotary
is
magazine.
outside of our population centers, our smaller clubs are very prone to viewing any umbrella organization, i.e. Rotary International in the district, as interference from the federal government. Okay. They get that
Revenuers.
same, and you can't tell us what to do. Okay. And they're resistant to looking at what other people do. And an individual can come in with an idea that they might accept, but it's a difficult sell, and that's something the district may need to pay real attention to. Is how do we introduce our smaller clubs to that openness of looking at what other people do, that someone else might just have it happen to had a good idea once. You
Well,
know, that
and there's so many tools like on RI and so many other clubs, to your point, Dan. And I do think some of our club members in our district, like you said, like they just feel like the district is interfering. So as opposed to helping. So as an assistant governor, my North Star is how can I bring value? Like what are my clubs doing? And then how can I connect them to the tools that we have, the resources, because there's so much out there trying to, yeah, so fully agree. Okay, we have 3 minutes, by the way. Anything else?
3 minutes.
I would say maybe asking like the new members, when you do have new members, understanding a little bit more about why they joined and their vision to help drive the types of organizations we want to work with and just what they want to see and get out of Rotary. They have a fresh new look at what they're looking for, and that could maybe help us get excited about it again, or move in a certain direction to A, get more members, or B, hit different portions of the community that we may have become blind to as we're just heading down a path.
how many clubs still have their new members give a vocational talk?
That reminds me of Governor Yasser's passports. The idea was kind of to mentor new members. But if you hand a new member a pass, see how the variety of things that Rotary is involved in and what in there is going to excite them.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for the active discussion. And I think we are about to be kicked out.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jen.
Oh, no problem. You made my job kind of easy, you know.
She's used to it from taking minutes at the council meetings.
Jeff may have his mouth open. That's why we're not together.
Oh. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, our clubs are all such different sizes, and we tend to think what would appeal the club that's 12 people or less is in a whole different universe than a club that's much larger.
Right.
Yeah. I think they are and they aren't. I mean, I think there's best practices that are kind of universal, but you might have to apply them a little bit differently depending on the size of the club.
Yeah, because they're really small clubs often act as a committee of the whole. They don't have a board. They don't have those things. And
agreed.
Yeah, every meeting is a board meeting.
Yep.
And a small club isn't a bad thing. It's just whether you have enough participation, right? Because that really what it comes down to is like in our club is it's me and Monica and a couple of others. So even though it's small, it's still even micro when the participation is not the small club.
Right.
Agreed. And George, I was mostly kidding about having you report back. Would you like me to report back? Bye, George.
There we
All
are.
right. I think we are all back. So we'll do like 5-minute report outs and then we'll conclude. So let's start with Ophelia's group.
Okay. Yes, Jeff, I would like to report we chose one person in our club to talk about what our findings were in our club was Yasser, Scott, Chavi, Bill, and myself. So Chavi is the one that's going to report on our
And you
findings.
forgot about Steve.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, Steve, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, Steve came in a little.
I'm here finally.
You are.
Thank you, Steve. Steve
It
had
took 5
individual-
tries, but I got
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Okay, Chavi, go ahead.
Okay, it's gonna be your speaker.
Okay, Ophelia, you do the question and I do the answer. Okay, that's how it's supposed to be.
The first question was, what are some examples of innovation in Rotary that you have been part of, seen or heard?
Okay, with the first one, it was the satellite clubs. And then the Zoom keep us together and Rotary was alive. Zoom change give us a lot change in schedules and locations. Second.
Okay.
But there'll be like 5-minute report outs. So is there time for any questions?
Challenges.
Okay.
And the challenges were we had to be adjustable and flexibility in location and time. Adaptability, it was one of the big challenges. Resilience and natural innovation was our gifts. Now collaboration with another clubs, communication and creativity and new services.
Okay.
And then
the third question
resistance, adaptability to update, to go in these new times with computers and technology. Individual communications needed to not to have resistance. The comfortability of we are that it's a resistance. We can be open and new ideas and new young members. What it promotes the innovation. We need passionate leaderships. We need support with our strong board membership. I created an environment that our memberships with their own ideas won't feel fear or criticized when they share the new ideas for services. Recognize the good things our members do. We need strong motivations of a few members. That's it.
Thank you, Chavi.
Awesome. Excellent. We have about a minute or so before we want to get to the next breakout. Any questions for Chavi and her group? Okay. Jen, what about your group?
Sure. So, George, do you want to share? And as you're thinking about that, because I voluntold George to share and then I felt bad. So one of us will share, but just for shock and awe, these were all the notes that I took.
Oh my God.
Oh, Lord.
So many good ideas that came out of this session. So
You're an overachiever.
No, the group is a group of overachievers. I was struggling to keep up. So George, would you like to share or should I?
I'll share on the first one because I can read my handwriting on the first one, but after that I can't.
Okay.
But yeah, Jen is amazing. Jen, of course, takes all the notes for our central area council meetings, and so she does this once a month, and it's just amazing. And so she publishes everything she types up like 5 minutes later. It's just
Oh my
amazing.
gosh.
So here's what I got on question number 1, examples of innovation. I really like this. So the idea was pop-up. The first one was pop-ups. So at a club meeting, once or twice a month, the champion for this project would just announce, hey, there's going to be a football game at Los Lunas High School. We're going to have a tailgate party there. Anybody that wants to come. And, or meet at a new restaurant or something like that. And so it's a great way to build relationships. So that was idea number 1. And number 2 was, if your fundraiser is burning out and you can't get club members to participate, try coming up with a new fundraiser that everyone could get excited about. That was number 2. Number 3 was using Del Norte as an example. They went to, and they did this mainly because of COVID, but then they kept it. They went to just 2 regular meetings a month. And on the alternate weeks when there was no club meeting, the satellite club met. And so you have the older members with money going to the regular weekly twice a month meetings during lunch. And then you have the younger professionals, the people that can have the physical ability to be your service club, your service workers on service projects, but that can't afford to come. So they've got the older folks during the regular meeting and the younger folks meeting at the satellite club. And because they're on alternate weeks, they can cross talk keep in touch with each other. That was idea number 3. And then clubs need a balance. And then we talked about why people leave. Okay, Jen, that was question number 1. Take it away.
Nicely done, George. So question number 2 about the current challenges that you might have that we could innovate for. The first one that came up was the perception of Rotary that, and this is a quote, I don't necessarily agree with it, but there's a perception that we're a group of stuffy old men that just meet for lunch and that's all we do. So to change that perception, Michael had mentioned having a campaign to go out in the community and I think Monica, everybody kind of added to it, but to show that we're working with youth programs like Interact, we're working with diverse people, we are diverse people, and kind of have a road show to show who we are now, to try to change that perception. And then a couple other things were that there's a challenge around the board members not really being able to do their jobs either because they're not sure how to do them or because they're not showing up regularly to keep the momentum going. So they might come and share minutes one week, but then the minutes don't get shared. So there's a little bit of a lack of organization, which means lack of communication with the rest of the club and feeds into that lack of strategic direction. We talked about resistance to innovation, and yes, there is likely to be some resistance, but I would say the key point that came out of that discussion is involvement, like talking to your members, including older, more senior members, getting their buy-in, getting their input, because if they give that input, they're more likely to support it and to help those initiatives move ahead. And then finally, some techniques to promote and foster innovation is first ask for the good ideas. 2, look around and see what other clubs in the US that are similar to our club. So you can have different sizes of clubs, and what works for a huge club might not work for a small club. So look at other clubs in the US similar to you and see what they're doing. And then one other point that I thought was good was we do tend to have events in our district that are good for innovation, but the same group of people tend to come, which I don't want to diminish that, because thank you all for being here. We also want others to come too, to get new ideas. So how do we do that? And then finally, the only other point I want to share was one member of our group he mentioned that he was asked by a member, he was told by a member before he was a Rotarian, he was told, you would make a good Rotarian because I see what you do and that would fit in Rotary. And now he has a family within Rotary to help connect those dots. So the point there is go out and look for people that you think would be good fits and then ask them to join and try to find their fit within the club. There it is.
Awesome. Thank you. Applause. For our group, Laura is going to be our spokesperson.
All right. So we had a little bit of a different way than just looking at the question. We also had clubs who brought up their issues they were having with that particular question. So for our examples of innovation in Rotary, we started out with talking about satellite clubs, clubs creating subunits of themselves, offering alternative times and day, and maybe specific focuses on service with no presenter. We talked about the Zoom option being very, very important, not only for the attendees, but also for bringing in speakers, flexible attendance. We talked about being able to pivot. For example, Taos used to have a chili challenge that went away during the pandemic for multiple reasons, and they pivoted and went to a festival of trees, and that has been very successful for them. People still miss the chili challenge, so they still want to bring that back because that was one of their signature events, but they found something else that they will also keep because they made it successful. They talked about having items where, you know, for a long time, one club had a garage sale community event, but as the club got older, they were not able to physically do that particular event. So they partnered with other organizations to do different initiatives like planting trees, building a little free library day kind of thing. So they've actually done other outreach to keep their club engaged. For number 2, what current challenges does our Rotary Club have that could help you innovate, that we can help you innovate solutions for? So one of the first questions we had from our group was, when you're in a larger area such as El Paso that has 8 clubs and each club wants to pull members in, how do we coordinate to promote Rotary across the community as a whole and promote our clubs, and what are other communities doing? Sorry about that. And so we talked about, you know, that there should be a conversation among clubs, that they're making an effort to find people as a whole. It's important for Rotarians to speak as a whole and view the benefit for the entire group, not just their specific club. We talked about, you know, making sure the community knows there's 8 clubs, that there are different options, and maybe, you know, doing some Rotary advertising as a whole, central website, social media efforts as a whole, going out into community events as a whole and having a table there where people can come and find out about everything that Rotary does, maybe visit different clubs to be able to find the one that meets their time, their area of focus, and what they're interested in being a service member, because everybody wants those service-oriented people in their club. And the more we can get, we don't need to be competitive with each other. We need to find the people that are going to have a long-term fit with our club. We have the people who have been a member of a long-standing club, and maybe that club no longer really fits with their life and their Rotary needs, but they don't want to leave their club. And what do we do to encourage them to feel comfortable being with the other club, maybe joining the other club, or maybe just kind of still remaining in their club? What kinds of things can we do to make sure that people feel engaged with Rotary and stay engaged? We talked about the ability to adapt, and that there may be something that's very important for you as a member that was part of your club and no longer is part of your club and may not be even part of another club you can go visit. So maybe that's a good time for you to be the champion and start a satellite for your club or a different club that focuses on the things that are really important to you. And that we want to go and copy the positive experience from other clubs and make sure that no matter which club we're in, everybody is feeling like it's a positive experience for them. For number 3, is there some resistance to innovation in your club? And if so, what can be done to lessen the resistance? We talked about, is it better to do the change rapidly, or is it better to slowly implement change? And it really depends on the club and what your club wants to do and how they want to go. We need to recognize that we may offend part of the group, we may lose people, it may be a long-term benefit for the club and the club may grow, but it may not work and we may have lost those members and that may present a different challenge. We talked about how important it is to truly involve the membership as a whole. That can be done with surveys, with small group discussions, fireside chats, dinners, where you assign different people so you're not always having the same little group coming together, and you encourage not to have the change of the people at the same table every week, that we actually encourage ways for people to interact with the club as a whole so that you have that strong community for the whole club. And then that when you have any innovation initiative, you need to have the champion for that innovation. And everybody can come up with great ideas, but if nobody stands up and says, I'm going to be the champion for that idea, I'm going to make it happen, it's very likely to not happen. Finally, for the techniques to apply and foster innovation in our clubs, communication's critical, involve the members. Make sure you do exit interviews for anybody who leaves and understand why they're leaving. Make sure that we involve our Rotary community members and that we have fellowship meetings, that we interview visiting Rotarians too, find out, what they think about our club and what their club may do that's different from us, maybe take them out for a separate meeting while they're in town, whatever. If you have corporate memberships and they're splitting up attendance, find out why they're splitting up attendance. What is the value add for them, and what can we do to make a better value add for them to be part of our club? And then also looking at ways to bring in more young people, the Rotaract clubs, the Interact clubs, mentorship programs where we can pair somebody who's maybe been in a role that a young person is interested in being in, putting them together so they can kind of both have a mentorship experience for both, where you have the older person who can share their wisdom and the younger person who can share kind of their modern perspective with that person and have it be a good two-way mentorship.
All right. Round of applause. That was fantastic. Thank you all very much for those report outs. And I'm going to, Ophelia, if your group had anything typed out, please send that to me.
Sure. I think Xavi has some notes.
Okay,
Right, Xavi?
yeah, we'll put the notes together and send that out later this weekend. Okay.
Of course.
Share my screen one more time. So, call to action. Ultimately, we would like takeaways that you can take to your clubs and start working on. Or there was enough food for thought and reach out to us to help with that. That's one reason why we have the strategic planning and innovation cadre. But we are here to help. So we don't have to answer the question, but we do want to make sure that you are thinking about what would the next step be? Do I need to talk to our current club president if he or she was not on in this workshop? And and kind of plant the seeds for innovation. So be thinking about what the next step would be for your club. We do want to make sure that this wasn't just an exercise in thinking about things, that we can actually put ideas into action. Any quick thoughts or quick notions about what your next step would be? We don't have to go with everyone, but just maybe one or two.
So I got this from listening to everybody else talking, but I really want to go back and encourage people not only to come to district celebrations and interactions, but also to go to zone, to go to international conference, and really charge them with talking to other groups and finding out how other clubs in the world do the things that we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's great.
It's also an opportunity to recharge batteries.
Yes. One other thought on what your next step would be?
I would say just not being shy to take those risks and speak out, and with the expectation that there might be some resistance, but just speaking out is a challenge sometimes. Finding that courage, I would say.
Agreed. Okay,
And
just be thinking about that. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, in my club, we have scheduled club assemblies. This is the things we talked about here would be good for me to bring up at our next club assembly.
Absolutely. So again, just be thinking about that. And if you need any suggestions or if you want to bounce ideas, please let us know, because we are here to help you. Okay.
I was wanting to add to what Yasser, build on what Yasser said, and say that we also have to provide an environment where failure is acceptable, because there's no effort without failure.
That's right. Yes, totally agree. So these were the expectations that you all had coming into this. So Jen, do you want to talk about the survey that we're going to do?
George, why didn't you tell me? I was on mute. Just kidding. So I will send out a post-session survey to see if this met your individual expectations. So you can feel free to share here. Jeff has what we got in the pre-survey up on the screen, but also know that you can privately share your feedback. And I'd really appreciate it if you did, because we do read every single one of those comments. So please do respond, because these are for you, not for us. So we want to make sure we're meeting your needs.
And we do act on these. And you know, this was the first innovation workshop that we've done like this. So there are clearly going to be opportunities to make this better. But I am curious, while we're as we're closing, if you look at what you all were looking for, are there any of these items that you feel we did not address to your expectations?
You know what I want to ask everybody in there, it is collaboration, communication between the clubs from the District 5520. If we can friendship and Facebook, we can follow through what we are doing, how we are doing, and you are very welcome to come into all the events we do in Taos, we do a Taos Milagro Rotary Club. And as well, we want to go and visit you too.
Wonderful, thank you.
Just as a comment, if you guys, when you set these, I know that you send out a link at a specific deadline. Putting the open link on the district webpage for more people to join at the last minute, dorks like me, who forgot to hit the registration button, and so therefore Laura rescued me. Because you need to grab those of us that are highly distracted and drag us into these meetings. And if you give us a link spot on the district webpage, then at least I can go jump in at the last minute.
Got it. Anything else about the expectations coming in and what we may or may not have done well during these 3 hours? Okay. Well, We do thank you very much for your time and your commitment. We did talk earlier about how time is a challenge. I think Tom had mentioned that we don't have an inordinate amount of time, and we all need to think about how to prioritize. And so we really appreciate you spending your Saturday mornings with us. If this workshop is going to continue, we would certainly want to make sure that we do our best to accommodate schedules and realize that we all have lives. But we also thank you for your commitment. My sense from just listening to the discussions is that you are all interested in this notion, and that maybe if you were not already, you will be innovation champions. And so we appreciate your commitment. We do feel like this is the direction that our district and our clubs need to go. We are excited about what's going to come out of these innovation ideas and incubators, whatever the term is. We are very excited. And as Tom pointed out, we are not afraid to fail. As long as we use them as learning opportunities and that we have a plan, that these are not just random events. So I don't know, Yasser, would you like to say anything to close this out?
Just a thank you for everyone that participated, and Ophelia, Jen, and you, Jeff, for putting this together. Thank you.
All right. Any closing thoughts before we close?
Love you all.
Love you too.
Jeff, I'd like to say something to
Yes.
your comment about failure. I don't think that exists in our Rotary in vocabulary, because we're all Rotarians, so nobody's a failure here.
That's good. Yeah.
Jeff, if I could jump in real quick.
Yes.
And inform people that we are going to be doing a seminar on October 5th, 2 weeks from today, on global grants to get everyone educated on the process and talk a little bit about how to prepare for the bi-district conference that will be November 15th and 16th in Juarez. So you can register for that online. We've sent out notice. We'll send out another one. And we just want to make sure that everyone's invited.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dick.
Thank you. And just from my part, it was great to be here with all of you. And just a little, just reiterating on a few things that I hear in this meeting. The innovation is a pool that doesn't have to wait until the crisis is here to make a change, or to come up with new ideas. Let's push forward, give you good attitude, and try to get people on your side so you can bring new things and better things to your class. Thanks for everything.
Thank you, Felia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very well said. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We will send out materials and links and all that in the next couple days. And please do not hesitate to reach out. We are all in this together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Have a good one.